Susan North. I'm acting as two roles tonight, as Sergeant of Arms and also as acting club president. Tonight it's January 7th, 2014, and looking for the theme of the meeting, New Year's Resolutions. Welcome to Golden Speakers, Toastmasters of Fairfield, Iowa. We meet every Tuesday night at 7:45 in the lower level of the First United Methodist Church. That's on the intersection of B and Briggs Street. Come in the B Street side of the double doors and down to the lower level, take the stairs or the elevator, and look for us in the community room. Just follow where you hear a lot of people laughing and having fun. Now, to get this meeting rolling, let's warmly invite our Toastmaster, Satish Sabavati, as he takes over the meeting.
Good evening all, and welcome once again. Thank you, past President Cindy Traynor. Before we go into the meeting, my role as a Toastmaster is to first introduce the theme of the day, and then the role players. We don't have guests, but the whole meeting has three parts. It starts with the table topics impromptu speech section, in which, we have a guest here, I'm sorry, Linda, and guests have the privilege to speak in table topics, so be prepared. And followed by that, we have our prepared speeches. Members have come prepared with some speeches, they will deliver that. Then followed by that, we have our members evaluating the different sections of the meeting. And to run all this very smoothly, we have different role players who I'll be introducing now. First is our timer, Dan Craig. Would you please give us
My role is to time all of the presentations tonight. First off, table topics are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light is turned on at 1 minute. The yellow light at 1 minute 30 seconds, the red light at 2 minutes, and remains on until the end of the speech. Prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7. The green light turned on at 5, the yellow at 6, the red light at 7. For longer speeches, it moves appropriately in that way. Evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes, the yellow at 2 minutes 30 seconds, the red light at 3 minutes. Remains on until the end of the evaluation. After the red light is on, there's a 30-second grace period. At that point, I'll begin applauding, and that will be the time to gracefully sit down and read the talk. That is what I'll be tracking, and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. The next role player is our counter, and that is Stephanie Chambers.
As our counter, I'll be taking note of the little things that slip into our speech that we often aren't aware of, such as ums and ahs, like, you know, so, but, and, tongue flicks, pauses, repeats, and false starts. And I'll give a report at the end so that we can all become aware of those things. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. And to enlighten us on our language use of this evening, we have our grammarian, Jeff Shipley.
Toastmasters, I will be fulfilling the role of grammarian tonight, and I've made no secret of this in meetings prior. I don't really care much for grammar. Grammar snobs to me are kind of obnoxious people. I think if we can clearly understand you and what you say makes sense, then you're successfully using language effectively. So if you use language incorrectly, if I can't understand you, or if what you're saying doesn't necessarily make sense, or if you do grossly misuse a word, I will make a note of that and report on at the end of the meeting. I'll also keep track of colorful, illustrative uses of language that impress me, and we'll also share that at the end. The other aspect of my job is the word of the day, which I will keep track of its usage. Resolve, to make a firm decision about. So I will resolve to start a new Toastmasters tradition of taking this word to the back of the room so speakers can see it and then hopefully use it more frequently throughout the meeting.
Good idea.
Well, it wasn't my idea. Somebody suggested it a few weeks ago. I forget who exactly it was, but it was a brilliant idea.
It was
Maybe it was
Carol.
me.
It was Sally.
I think it was It's everybody. So I'm going to place it hopefully out of the way back here.
Yay!
See it?
Thank you, Jeff. And this is how our New Year resolution starts. And a reminder, speakers, you're encouraged to use the word of the day, resolve, in your speeches, if you had noted that reminder. Okay, now we have a greeter and joke master, Carol Negro. She'll give a joke at the end of the meeting. And Diane Denbaum is our general evaluator. Again, she'll come up at the end of the meeting, towards the end of the meeting, and give a report on the general performance of this evening. And we have a ballot counter, Cindy Trainer, who will do the ballot collection and counting. Now, with no further delay, I'll hand the
Podium.
lectern over to our table topics master, Stephen Harper.
Yay!
So that we can be on time, I would like to know how many speeches there are and what time we're going to start those.
It's on your agenda, which you didn't pick up.
Very good.
You have until 8:12.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, well, we got a lot of table topics in it. All right, who would like to volunteer to give a table topics talk? Yes.
Go Jeff.
Go, resolve!
Jeff, you're being given an award for outstanding achievement in your career at a banquet in your honor. What do you want to tell the audience about what you have learned about achievement, fulfillment, and what is really important in life?
That's a question.
In 2 minutes or less.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, achievement, fulfillment, those are all very intimidating topics. I really wouldn't know anything about that. Although there was a shocking betrayal that I experienced this Saturday that I feel impelled to share with you all. Who here was present a few months back when I spoke about my penchant for India Cafe? All right, most of the room. So in that speech I mentioned that they offer a lunch buffet 11:30 to 2:30 without fail every day. So it was Saturday. I woke up Saturday. I was with some friends. It was about 2:15. We were very hungry. We arrived at the India Cafe at 2:15. And the buffet line, no one was in the cafe, but the food was still there. They had the mofi balls, which are good, and then the cabbage paneer or matar, or I don't know, the cabbage stuff with the peas in it that I really enjoyed. So I was looking forward to eating there, and I'd been a very, very loyal customer, so loyal that I devoted a speech to it and encouraged all my friends to attend, frequent there very often. So I went in there with 3 of my friends, hoping to get a very fulfilling meal. I could speak about gluttony and fulfillment through buffet lines. I'd be qualified to speak about that and the achievement that brings. Anyway, I just was not greeted very warmly. The food was still present. We were asked if we could eat it, and I was expecting, yeah, you see all this food there, take as much as you like, sit down. We're up until 2:30, as you mentioned in your speech that was broadcast throughout Fairfield. 2:30 is the time we close. Everyone should know that. And it was only 2:15. I'm looking at my watch. I was not given a warm response. I was told, well, we want to be out of here in 5 minutes. So if you got to eat, hurry up. That's paraphrasing, but that's the response I got. We did not feel very welcome there. And as someone who enjoys India Cafe, I just felt betrayed. My heart was heavy. I ended up going to the Hy-Vee buffet.
No.
Yeah, so it was quite a step down. Anyway, that's the way we started out the new year, and sadly I don't think I'll be eating there as often as I did because of this experience. Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Smith.
Congratulations. Okay. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Go!
I've been doing one in a while. It's the new year.
Diane. What do you love most about life and living? Please tell us what you enjoy most and why.
Would you repeat it once more?
What do you love most about life and living? Please tell us what you enjoy most and why.
Good evening, Toastmasters, honored guest, viewers at home. When I was young, than I am now, the thing I loved about being alive were people. I love people. So in my young world, the people that I loved were my parents, my siblings, and the kids that lived in my neighborhood. When I got older, a little older, and went to school, no different. I love people. I love to laugh with people. I love to listen to people. That's probably why I was brought up in New York City, because one of the things that we used to love to do was just people watch. I love to be at airports and wonder, where are they going, and who does he love her? Why does she dress so nice? Wonder why they're together. People, people, people. And when I got to be my young age that I am now, I still love people. I choose careers that involve people. School teacher, coach, a life coach, working with people, relationships. So why I love to be here, and look at me in Toastmasters. I love all you people. It's really what I'm about. I adore people. That's my life. That's what I love about being here.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Who else wants to try? We've got time for a couple more. Cindy? Cindy, what was the most significant event in your life? Please tell us about it and why.
Most significant event in my life, other than getting married to someone I love and my very best friend, was my father's passing. He died in March 1st, 1989, 5 days after his third heart attack in 5 years. He had a massive influence on my life. I think probably much to my mother's dismay. Because where she wanted to teach me how to be a lady and be a girl and take care of the household chores, I kind of was a tomboy, and I liked to be outside, and I was always curious to see what my father was doing in the garage, and maybe I could help him do the oil change, and maybe I could help him do the tune-up on the car. That kind of thing. She's dragging me out of trees and saying, come on inside, I want to show you how to sew a dress, or And she bought me a doll and a doll carriage and a little miniature sewing machine that you ran with a crank, you know, for children. And I didn't want to play with any of those things. Tom recently told a story about me, that my father was working in the area and he came home for lunch. He was in installation and repair for, at the time it was called Ma Bell or Bell Telephone, later AT&T. And they didn't know where I was, and she's hollering for me to come in and have my lunch. And they look out, and there's a telephone pole in the backyard with a big light on it and some wires at the top. And here I've got out my father's climbing gear that has spikes on the end, and I'm trying to climb the telephone down. He paid a lot of attention to me and showered me with a lot of love and gave me a lot of skills that I still have today.
A lot of good table topics talks tonight. Let's see, we've got time for one or two more. Who else wants to go?
The guests are welcome too.
Yes, guests are welcome too. Would you like to take a try?
Yes.
Go for it, Linda. Go for it.
Please welcome. What's your name?
Linda Gibson.
Linda Gibson. Thank you and welcome. Please tell us about one of the funniest things that ever happened to you or you ever saw or heard about. You can take half a minute to think about it. You don't have to start right away.
Oh, this is the first thing that's coming to my mind, so I really don't know why. But I think it really wasn't so funny, but it was my son. He scooted around on the carpet on his nose. And he wore all of the hide off of his nose. Now that's really not funny. That is not a funny thing. But it was funny because, I mean, it took a really long time for that hide to come back on his nose. Now why I'm thinking of this, I don't know. Really got a clue. But that was actually really funny because he had this sore nose for such a long, long time, and he just slid across that carpet. That's what I'm thinking of was the funniest thing, and you're probably thinking, wow, that lady has a dull life. You guys do a lot of shaking of hands.
Thank you very much, Linda. Okay, we still got time for another one. Tom.
Tom.
I was hoping you'd come up.
Yo.
I was saving this one for you. Oprah Winfrey is doing another show on enlightened individuals in Fairfield. You've been asked to speak for 2 to 3 minutes about enlightenment. What do you wish to tell Oprah's millions of viewers?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored, distinguished guests, and viewers at home. I gave a speech about this recently here, and the point I made with the help of my evaluator, I had Will Burns, and I had him at the back of the room. And every time I used the word enlightenment, he turned the lights off. For about 5-10 seconds. Then I had him turn them on. We did this 2 or 3 times to illustrate a point, is that the word enlightenment is totally misleading in Western culture. It's not a correct word to use because it hasn't a meaning that's reliable for everyone, because it means different things. But the primary meaning to most Westerners are that the enlightenment is either on or it's off. That's the predicated pattern that's been installed as a piece of software in every Westerner, because we all grew up with light switches that went on and off. Now, we've had dimmers for a while, but I'll be willing to bet you 99% of the light things that you run into most days are switches. So it installs the meaning that you either are enlightened or you are not. And of course, not enlightenment is the primary feeling that you must be off. Your light's not on, then you're off. You're not with it. I prefer to use the word awakening, because awakening doesn't have any hidden agenda to it. If you're awake, you know you're awake. You wake up in the morning, I'm awake. I go to sleep, I'm not awake. But I'm awake a lot more than I'm not awake. So you install the meaning of awakening being your most common state. So when you're awake, you're with it, you're on, and it's the strangest thing you'll ever know. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. Awakening in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, well you do.
We do, okay. I have one more question. Who wants to do that? Yes?
All right.
All right.
Okay. The last question. What is the most important thing you have to tell this audience right here, right now?
Wow.
Good evening, Table Topics Master, fellow members, guests, and viewers at home. The most important thing in life, to me, I would say getting introduced to a guru, a spiritual person who's going to show what your life is about, whole life is about. And I think that most important thing happened to me at one point. In fact, the whole life is a learning process. So we start learning at every stage. But that point which becomes most important is when you start to learn about yourself, the life. In Tamil, my language, we have this saying which goes like Mother, Father, Guru, and God, teacher and God. So what this really means is, no one has any doubt about their own mother. They know who their mother is. And the mother, if only she introduces, we know the father. And the mother and father together take us to the teacher who introduces us to the God, or have a realization of ourself, which I totally agree. Awaken with what Tom said, awaken and enlighten. Awaken is yes, no, but I disagree on this point where it's enlightenment is more appropriate, I think, because it has different intensities. When you say someone is enlightened, it doesn't mean he's not enlightened. I mean, he's totally enlightened or not. But there is a variation or gradation. So that's why I think the word enlightenment is more appropriate, because it talks about different layers, whereas awake is yes or no. So having said that, I feel the most important thing in my life was my introduction to my guru. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's take a minute to vote for best. Well, wait a minute.
All of them qualify.
Okay.
The names are Jeff, Diane, Cindy, Linda, Tom, Satish. Jeff, Diane, Cindy, Linda, Tom, Satish.
All right. Well, I thought we had some excellent talks tonight. I want to thank all of you who got up and spoke. Jeff, I really liked your talk. It was funny, it was engaging, you were self-confident, and even though you didn't want to talk that much about the topic that I had chosen, you talked about what was important to you, and I thought you made a good segue there. Then we had Diane, and I thought it was very heartfelt. It really struck me as you know, that you were really speaking from your heart, and you really meant it when you said that people are important to you, and you showed how that's true in your life. I just that was the thing that struck me most. By the way, both of you, I thought your deliveries were very smooth and very even and very engaging. Then we had, who's next after? Oh, Cindy. Yes, Cindy, that was also very, very moving about your father. And you wove in that funny story. I was afraid to hear that you were going to get entangled in those wires. And was wondering how you were safe from that. But I felt very moved by that, and I think we all did. And we had Linda. Linda, I thought that was quite funny about your son. I just, you know, really liked that. So I thank you for having the courage to come up and as a guest and sharing that. And Satish, well, I skipped you, Tom. Tom, yeah, I thought that in a very short time you conveyed a very abstract concept, or a few very abstract concepts, very clearly. And I really liked how you got out here. Well, everybody got out here pretty much. And you know, you were turning to me. You really spoke directly and had great eye contact. And when you stopped, it was almost you were looking for recognition from the person in the audience that you were speaking to them. And that really made me feel like you were talking to me. And I thought that was very powerful. I liked that a lot. And I also thought that what you said was very clear for a very difficult topic to talk about, especially in such a short time. So great job. And Satish, also very, very heartfelt. And as soon as you started speaking, I felt the profundity of what you had to say. It was very, very moving. It was a different perspective. And it was more the perspective of my life. It wasn't so much abstract. It was about, you know, it was really me, my family, the people that I'm connected to, that I love. So these are really, really moving, and I was really moved. And I want to thank you all very much for your talks.
That was a great table topic session, and now we move on to the next one, which is prepared speeches. And in this section, we have our own members come prepared with some speeches. They have put in a lot of effort. Let's all encourage them. And to introduce the first speaker of the evening, I ask Art to come over.
Thank you, Satish. Good evening, Toastmasters. Tonight we get to hear from Scott Terry. He hasn't given me the title yet of his talk, but he said, once again, I will be speaking about my therapy stuff. Now, what he's decided to do is to demonstrate some principle that he works with and engage us. So he's actually giving a demonstration talk. One of the things that he's asked me to look for is how well does this demonstration, which is a little bit far outside of the box, how well does this demonstration actually work to get his point across? So this should be very interesting. He's taking an abstract subject, which is the field he works in, and making it very physical and visible to us. So I look forward to Scott Terry.
Can I have a moment? Tonight's talk is how to blow up a balloon. That's right. And 2 lucky members of the audience tonight will get to blow up the balloon. Look for your chance. I know Jeff's looking forward to it. He's going to opt for it. Let me start by saying for some people, to blow up a balloon might seem a simple thing, but to some people, it isn't. There's a lot going on, a lot in our heads that shouldn't be there. Let me tell you. So I'm a little kid, and I'm really scared to blow this up because there's that whole clown thing. You probably didn't have that in Australia, but here there's, I'm from Chicago, and the Casey thing. There's some really scary clown things. And then there was this thing where somebody came and popped the balloon in my head, and I just I freaked out, and after that I just can't do it. And then there was a thing where they rubbed my head against a balloon and then stuck me against a wall, or maybe it was the other way around. Just because we feel something, we acknowledge it, we do something with it, and we come back to who we are and what we want to create. We get back into action, and then we come back to what do we want to do with that feeling. So I have this thing against balloons because I kind of suppress a certain part of me, and these things are round, and I'm not supposed to really think about round things too much because they get a little scary, and because that side of me is kind of oppressed and round things. It's just a balloon. It's not about our projections. It's just a balloon. See? Balloon. Ah! Balloons make me happy. Ah! There's shiny stuff up here. Did you notice how many shiny things up there? And there's grates. Look, you're looking at me. Why are you looking at me? Look, you're looking at me. And you. Oh, right. It's just a balloon. Come back to being present. And am I going to blow this or am I not? How do you blow up a balloon already? Ah! I used to be really good at math, and I could calculate the volume. So per second, how much air would go into this would create what kind of a space. And I could really develop the numbers in my mind and just see them floating in the air. Being more in your head doesn't get you out of your head. It's just being in your head. At some point, are you going to blow up the balloon or are you not? Ah! So we have all these kind of thoughts. And I've got lots and lots of thoughts. One of which is I think about, who am I to be able to blow up a balloon? What gives me the power, the mission to blow up a balloon? Who am I? Why me? Me. Do I deserve it? Do I need it? It's a balloon. Ah! There was once this silly book called The Promise, I don't know if you ever heard of that one. And you know, if I really deserve this balloon to be blown up, I can really think about it. I can really pray for it. I deserve it. And I'm going to think about how much I deserve it, and it will blow up on its own. Really? My Jodish, Stephanie tells me about this. My Jodish says that it's not time to blow up the balloon, so I can't blow it up for you. I'm sorry, I can't blow it up. I know I'm supposed to show it, but it's her fault. I'm going to work, you know, we're at a church here, and there's the Jesus thing here, and I know it's not my religion in the slightest, but I think I'll pray, and somebody will blow up this balloon for me. All right, I'm not going there. It's good. Okay. We get lots and lots of these thoughts, and some of these thoughts, see, Jeff's looking at me now, and Jeff's controlling my mind. He's making it so I can't blow up this balloon. Why are you doing this to me, Jeff? But Art has this thing where he looks over his glasses, and he's wanting me to blow up the balloon. I don't know what to do. I don't. Just because we feel something, just because we think something, just because we project something, we acknowledge what's in our head, no matter how crazy it is. We come back to what our task is, and we do something. We create what we want to create. The power isn't out there. I choose if I'm going to blow up a balloon or don't I. Or don't I. So, I now want to ask 2 volunteers in the audience to actually show me how to blow up a balloon. Volunteer 1, which balloon do you want?
Blue.
He wants a blue one.
I'll do it.
Okay, which one do you want?
Pink.
Yeah, of course you do.
Start.
Show me how to blow up a balloon. Whoa, serious. Okay, what did you do? How did you blow up the balloon?
I put the opening to my mouth
Yeah?
and I pushed air out from my mouth into the hole.
Wow. What'd you do?
I first prepared the balloon to get it
Oh, you're too
flexible.
much. Yeah. So basically, all you do is you take this thing, you put it to your mouth, and you blow. Then what?
You have to tie it.
Why?
If you want to keep the air in it, tie it. If you want to let the air out, let it go.
Let it go. Come back to our choice. Yes, thank you. I like that.
You forgot. Thank you.
All right.
So that was a great speech. One of the first prepared speeches you listened to.
I like that.
Before we go to the next one, let's take 2 minutes to evaluate the speech.
What?
2 minutes. Welcome back. Now to introduce our second and last prepared speech for this evening, I call upon Stephanie Chambers. Yo!
Well, fellow Toastmasters and guests, viewers at home, tonight we have the pleasure of hearing Rick do a speech from the Storytelling Manual, the second project, which is called Let's Get Personal. The objectives of this project are to learn the elements of a good story, to create and tell an original story based on personal experience. The time of the speech is 6 to 8 minutes. And the title of Rick's speech is Up, Up and Away. I might just ask you to also move up, up and away, so we have a little storytelling circle.
The hot sun beat down on the small Texas airfield. A tumbleweed blew across the runway. Dust devils danced across the desert floor. A small airplane sat next to the hangar. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. The plane was a bright yellow Piper Cub. It was a two-seat, single-engine trainer. It was a tail dragger, which meant when it was parked, it sat with its nose in the air and its tail on the ground. I had taken a couple of flying lessons, but this was the first time I was going to fly the plane all by myself. The flight instructor was going to be in the plane with me. It wasn't a solo flight, but I was going to take off, land, and do everything in between. Flying a Piper Cub is kind of like riding a motorcycle. It's cramped, it's noisy, it's drafty. It has two seats, one behind the other, just like a motorcycle. I was doing the pre-flight inspection, the pre-flight checklist. I was walking around the plane. Nothing was broken. Nothing was hanging off the plane. There were no puddles of fuel or oil underneath. So far, so good. I reached up to the wing tank and drained a little fuel. No water in the gas. Again, a good sign. I folded myself into the front seat of this tiny plane. This was easier than usual because the side windows and the door had been taken off to try to keep the cockpit a little cooler. I looked down and saw the size 14 cowboy boots of my flight instructor who was sitting in the back seat. I finished the checklist and went to start the engine. Now, airplane engine is kind of like an old Volkswagen engine in that it starts the first time or it doesn't start at all. Luckily, this time it started right up. Fastened my seatbelt and started to taxi to the runway. Now, taxiing a Piper Cub is a little difficult because the nose is in the air and it's hard to see over the nose of the plane when you're taxiing. So you have to do a series of S-turns and look out the side windows as you're taxiing. I finally made my way to the runway. Time to take off. Takeoff power, ready to go. We were going, gaining more airspeed. I heard the roar of the engine, the wind swirling through the cockpit, the Cub bouncing up and down on the bumpy runway. Takeoff power, plenty of right rudder. I had to push the stick forward just a touch. That got the tail of the plane up. A little more airspeed, and I pulled back gently on the stick, and we took off. Airborne, flying. It was a hot day, so we climbed pretty slowly. We finally got to altitude, and the instructor said, let's do some touch and goes. A touch and go is where you practice landing. You come in, you touch down, and you immediately take off again. I turned around and headed back to the traffic pattern. I flew all three legs, downwind, base, and final. Kept the Cub lined up with the runway, reduced power, lost altitude, pulled back on the stick, and touched down on all three wheels. I'd like to say I gently touched down on 3 wheels, but it wasn't exactly the case. I must have bounced the plane about 6 feet in the air. The flight instructor, who was a slow-talking Texan and man of few words, just said, "Not bad, let's try it again." Full power, stick back, gained altitude, went around again, did a few more touch and goes. Each time I got a little better and bounced it a little less high. I think I was down to 2 or 3 feet by the last touch and go. After a few touch and goes, flying around the pattern, the instructor said, "Well, let's bring her in, let's land it." No! I was like a little kid who was outside playing and had to come in the house. I wanted to stay outside and play. But it was time to land. Again, back to the traffic pattern, into the pattern, flying all 3 legs, cut the power, lose altitude, back on the stick, 3-point landing. Wasn't too bad this time, I bounced it hardly at all. I taxied back to the hangar, did my S-turns back to the hangar, pulled up, parked it next to the hangar, shut it off, and got out. What a day. What an experience. What a feeling. In the words of the poet, I have loosed the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings.
That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that. And now it's time to evaluate the speech. 2 minutes, please, timer. Welcome back. Now we'll move on to our final section. Move. There, hold. Down. And before that, we'd like to vote for the best speaker. Do the speakers qualify, Mr. Timer?
They both no, sorry, only Rick qualified.
So there's no need to vote.
Yeah, no.
Let's vote for Rick.
Congratulations, Rick.
I vote for Vic.
Okay. So now we really move on to the final section, which is evaluation. And to lead the evaluation section, I would like to call upon our general evaluator, Diane Denbaum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Whoa!
Last section of the evening, I'm going to call Art Atkinson up, who's going to evaluate Scott's speech. Art?
Yo.
So, fellow Toastmasters and Scott, this was both direct and indirect. Scott, you have what I characterize as a highly elliptical method of speaking. You rarely speak directly about your topic. It's usually indirect and metaphorical. Now this was the metaphorical demonstration. This wasn't about balloons. The clue for me was that he said, this is going to be a talk about my therapy stuff. He gave us a vivid demonstration of neurotic tangled thinking. Every variation that he could come up with for how do you make something simple complicated. How do you mess up your life by being in your head? Now that was very effective. And the balloon metaphor, balloons, well, this gets this to what I think could be done to improve this talk. Because the balloon was a metaphor for just doing whatever it is that you want to accomplish that you're already capable of doing. Scott, if you interviewed Diane and said, what were you thinking about as you blew up your balloon?
Yeah.
You would have gotten, well, I wasn't doing anything. I was just pushing air into the balloon. You did ask her what her technique was. And if you had interviewed him and illustrated to us that their minds were just in simplicity while they just blew, you would have brought home the point of your therapeutic angle on it, that the way we live in life is we do and stay out of the complexity. We do what we know to do and stay out of the complexity. But this was a vivid demonstration talk. It worked, in my opinion. I think it was really obvious that he was demonstrating a neurotic, tangled mind filled with complexity. Your opening line, Scott, this is going to be a talk about how to blow a balloon. That's an attention getter.
Ah!
The theme of the little kid who doesn't know what he deserves to have or doesn't deserve to have, or whether it's okay to do or not, that was throughout. The stream of consciousness was real apparent. The manual asks, did the speaker make the talk relevant to the audience interest? I would say yes. Anyone who was seriously concerned with how to enjoy himself would be riveted by this. Complexity is of your own creation, the mind going ape. The demonstration had a clear impact. So I would work on the time, and I would work on making the moral of the story more apparent the next time you give this. Thank you.
I am now going to call up Rick Starr's evaluator, who is Stephanie. Thank you. Stephanie Chambers.
Yo!
Fellow Toastmasters guests, viewers at home. And Rick, I really enjoyed your speech. I feel like I really had a taste of what it would be like to learn how to fly, which I must admit is something I had thought about doing at one point. So for me it was very interesting. And I think everyone in the audience also enjoyed that experience of being right there in the seat, taking control. You followed a very logical, chronological structure, which is easy for us all to follow, which was great. In terms of how the story built to a climax, it wasn't so much a definite climax, but I definitely had the feeling, because we were taking off, that was really, the climax was landing, I suppose. But also there was a mini climax of actually getting off the ground in the first place. So that was interesting. The manual asks, were the characters well developed? Well, you didn't really talk much about yourself, so the only other character there was the flight instructor, and we got to know that he has very big feet, and that he is a Texan with a slow voice. So we got some taste of the character. How did the speaker use description and dialogue to add to the ambience of the story? I thought your descriptions were very clear. The only point I thought you possibly could have improved on a little bit was to describe where you were. I had no idea of what the scenery was, and surely, I mean, I know part of the thrill is the speed of the plane and taking off and that sort of thing, but I think it would have added something if you could have given us some idea of where you were, whether you're in the desert or flying over forests or where it was. So that sort of description could be added. Were you able to picture the characters in action? I think we all got a fairly good idea of what was happening. At times, I did feel there was a little bit of jargon. There were terms that you didn't explain, that maybe we would have understood, like the traffic pattern. I kept thinking, well, we're back in the traffic pattern. I mean, what is the traffic pattern? There's just little terms that I started to wonder about, and maybe that was good because it got my curiosity going, but perhaps you could have just said one word or two that made that clearer for everyone. And in terms of telling a story, I think the real skill in telling a story is to weave some sort of moral of the story or something into it. But I think in your case, the moral was that, wow, life can be amazing. And I think when you did the thing about the kid, I think we got that message. So maybe you could have maybe touched on that at the beginning or made it a little bit stronger. But I thought it was, overall, it was an excellent speech about learning to fly and really felt your enthusiasm. So thanks.
Go.
Thank you, Stephanie. We'll move into the part where we vote for the best evaluator at this point, and that would be, does everyone qualify?
Stephen, Art, and Stephanie all qualify.
Okay, so Stephen from the table topics, Art, and Stephanie. We're back. We are now going to head on the home stretch with our reports. Our first report will be from Dan Craig, our timer, please.
In table topics, Jeff spoke 2 minutes 15, Diane a minute 38, Cindy 2 minutes 17, Linda was a minute even, Tom 2 minutes and 15 seconds, Satish 2 minutes 17 seconds. Prepared speeches, Scott was 7 minutes 37 seconds, then he decided to sit down. Rick was 6 minutes 20 seconds. Evaluators, Stephen 3 minutes 40, Art 3:24, Stephanie 3:11.
Thank you so much. Another visit from Stephanie in her role as op counter. Please give your report. Thank you.
So tonight, Satish, you had one repeat. Stephen, you had a few things, but I must admit you were on the spot suddenly giving the evaluations that you hadn't planned for. You did say quite a few hours and an and. So you might just keep that in your awareness next time. Everyone else, there was a lot of people speaking, Jeff, Diane, Cindy, Linda, Tom, but I, to be honest, didn't really catch anything much, which was great. Scott, you had one you know and an and, but other than that, it was very good. And Rick was very minor and quick, and a full stop. Other than that, everyone did very well tonight.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call Jeff Shipley up, and I know that he is going to resolve to do this in a 2-minute report. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Thank you, Diane. Well, I do have a lot to say, so luckily we are ahead of schedule. Starting with our word of the day, it was only used twice, once by Diane correctly. Satish just pointed it out. But I think this was my fault. I'm not blaming any of you all. I think the grammarian, it's easiest if you choose an adverb or an adjective. I think that's easiest to work into a sentence. So for future reference, for myself or other people who might be a grammarian, I think those words work better. But resolve is still appropriate for the theme, so I'll justify my action that way. It was a wonderful night for colorful illustrative language. Really. Starting with our table topics master, Professor Harper. Every single question, see, you evaluated yourself, so you weren't able to compliment your genius questions. This is sincere, honest, that these are some of those thought-provoking, soul-piercing questions I've had the pleasure of hearing as a Toastmaster. What do you enjoy most about life and living? You know, these are the things we really want to talk about when we're sitting down at the table. Diane, she spoke about, I adore people, that's my life. Cindy mentioned the love of my life and my best friend, really endearing language. Tom, install the meaning of awakening being your most common state. Again, these are all paraphrased. Precision's kind of tough when you all are speaking fast, so give me some slack. Satish, when he mentioned his native language, Tamil, he strung together 4 very powerful nouns: mother, father, guru, and God. Yeah. Obviously, that's going to resonate with everybody in the audience. Art, wonderfully illustrative language, taking the abstract and making it physical and visible. And then in his evaluation afterwards, demonstrating a neurotic, tangled mind riddled with complexity.
Yeah.
Wow. Scott, a lot in our heads that just shouldn't be there. Just because we project something, we acknowledge that it's there. And then, Rick, your speech was absolutely fantastic. Dust devils dance across a desert floor. And then if you paid attention to the way the verbs he chose, he didn't just get into the cockpit, he folded himself in there.
Yes.
You know, really, the verbs you choose really illustrate this story, gives it a lot more meaning. Other than that, it was a wonderful meeting. I recommend everyone look at the tape, go back again, and take your own notes of the language you liked too, because it was fantastic. Thank you, everybody.
right, fun time. Linda, your buddy gets to tell a joke now. I'd like to invite up Carol for joke time.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, esteemed guests, and viewers at home. I'm going to tell a joke about two guys. And these two men are kind of lost, they're lost souls. But it's the holiday season, and they're trying to bring their higher power into their life, and they have great resolve to understand what Christmas is. So one guy says to the other guy, says, I just don't know. And the other guy goes, well, I think maybe Christmas is when guy gives a big heart full of candy to the woman he loves. The other guy goes, no, I don't think that's what Christmas is. He goes, maybe not. I think that's maybe Valentine's. Oh yeah. The other guy says, well, I think maybe Christmas is when everyone dances around a big pole and throws flowers. Guy goes, no, that's not Christmas. That's not Christmas. So the other guy says, I think that's May Day. He goes, oh yeah. So the next guy says, I think Christmas is about Christ. Oh yeah, Christ Christmas. And it's very serious. He has to carry a big cross. And he's going up a big hill. And he gets to the top of the big hill, and they nail him to the cross, and he dies. And the guy goes, yeah, this is Christmas, this is Christmas. So he goes, and after he dies, they take him off the cross, take him down a hill, and put him in a big cave and close it with a very big rock. The guy goes, yeah, that's it. But then after 3 days, he wakes up. He comes to the cave, end of the cave, pushes away the big rock. He walks out of the cave. He looks down the ground and says, that's not my shadow, and he goes back in the cave for 6 more weeks.
How much have you guys been drinking? Okay.
It's my turn. I evaluate the evaluators as the general evaluator. I'll start with Steve. I felt that your evaluation, done at the spur of the moment, was easy for you because you just come from your heart, you're very spontaneous. That's what I feel. I love how and I think it's a great model for when you're evaluating, remember, it's your evaluation of the speech. So I loved when I felt that I could tell, well, that's actually me saying, I could tell that you listened to the talks, but I like the way you came with the I statements. And I love the way you ended with, you thanked everyone for sharing that evening. It was very gracious, so thank yous go a long way. Suggestion for improvement was just that. You could have maybe, in spur of the moment, found a few points for improvement in some of the speeches, if not all. I didn't hear a lot. We'll cut you some slack because of the spur. And maybe you could have watched a few things, like someone started off their talk, incredible talk, Mr. Satish, with your hands in your pocket. That's a Toastmaster no-no. Things like that, maybe, that you could have watched for, even though it was incredible. So that's my thing for Steve. Art, oh my gosh, the thought that went through my mind was the two intellects meet. You know, every time I have to evaluate Scott, I always have to say, Scott, I love you, and I was a little confused, and you've improved. So for Art, to evaluate you was perfect. You tied up a few loose ends. Like you said, your suggestion gelled this speech, which I was laughing, I was with you, and then as I wrote down, there were a few parts that I was confused at. So You were perfect for Scott, in my opinion. I would say, searching deeply for a suggestion, I wrote down here, add drama, somewhere in there, maybe just something, like when you came to me. Diane, what were you feeling when you were blowing up that balloon, or thinking? Something in there, that's what I wrote, add drama. Stephanie, as always, you're incredibly thorough. You're also another intelligent being. You use the manual, you just touch on all the points. I think my one, so compliments, compliments, compliments. You're very helpful to the evaluator, in my opinion. I would say this, if I were to give you a suggestion, I complimented Stephen on this. Be careful when you say, it was easy for all of us to understand that. No, it was easy for you. Or you could check in with us. You said something like, I think we all, whatever it was, you could use the audience and say, audience, did you all think that, and then see if we raise our hand. So I just think it's great when you're evaluating to just say what you're thinking and feeling and what was up for you. That's my report as the evaluator. Thank you, evaluators, for great evaluations. And now I get to call back up. I'm committed and resolved to checking this template that our wonderful Dan makes so that I follow along. It is time for Satish, who's going to wrap up this meeting.
On the whole, it was a great meeting. Thank you, General Evaluator, for your evaluations. That was very helpful. And now it's time to recognize the hard work put in today by the speakers. So first I would like to hear a drum roll for the best tabletop. And that goes to Cindy.
Yo!
And a drum roll for the best evaluator. That goes to Art.
Yes.
Art. And the biggest surprise for the evening, the best speaker goes to Briggs. Officers, do you have any announcements to make?
No.
Can I go first? Now I'd like to bring our acting president back to close the meeting.
It's a tradition of Toastmasters to always applaud the person leading the lecture and back to their seat. That way they're not walking in that dreadful silence, feeling all eyes on the room are on them. As also as another tradition in this club, we'd like to ask our guests what they thought of the meeting. So Linda, would you like to share with us what you thought the meeting was about? You don't have to speak, but you're very welcome to.
Well, I always enjoy myself every time I come.
Good.
And I always enjoy everybody speaking. And I thought it was quite interesting. I particularly liked Art. His enthusiasm was wonderful. And the way that he helped clarify Rick's talk, which was kind of over my head. But I thought that was really, really great. I always enjoy it when I'm here.
There you go.
All right.
I'd like to share with this ribbon, it says, "Welcome to Toastmasters, where leaders are made." Thank you for coming tonight.
Well, thank you.
Please come back.
Please come back, yes, definitely.
Come on back.
All right. So thank everyone for juggling the roles and taking on, Stephen, new responsibilities tonight with your impromptu evaluation. Much appreciated. You helped advance everyone tonight. And thank you all once again for coming on a cool, chilly night. And Tom, you have something to say.
Yeah, the church left us a note. They
Yeah.
want the chairs picked up, so just pick them up tonight instead of
Oh.
putting them down. They need them up, so let's be good neighbors and pick them all up for them.
Okay.
We stack them over there?
Yep, stack them over there.
Okay, great.
For
Or
both places
behind
just
here.
one of the-
Wherever.
Either way, yes, Pastor Jess left a nice note that said, if you move chairs around tonight, don't worry about moving them back. We need them folded up for tomorrow anyway, so have a blessed night. Meeting
Okay.
adjourned. All right.
Hi, everybody. Louis Denbaum here, inviting you to my upcoming presentation at the Golden Speakers Toastmasters annual membership meeting here in Fairfield, Iowa. As a communication coach and educator, I am passionate about helping people communicate better, both in the workplace and at home. Have you ever had a conversation that escalated into an argument? And when it was over, not only didn't you get what you wanted, but you damaged a friendship at the same time? This presentation is about creating a real win when you have a difficult conversation. A real win is when you get what you want and you are able to maintain the connection or relationship with the other person. During this presentation, I will outline a process for conducting a difficult conversation, from pre-conversation planning through asking for what you want. Learn how to communicate more deeply, dissolve disagreements, and get what you want. Join me on Tuesday, January 28th at 7:25 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church on the corner of B Street and Briggs Avenue. Enter on the east side of the building. By the way, the Golden Speakers Toastmasters take great pride in starting their meetings precisely on time. So do arrive before 7:25 to grab your seat. I'd love to see you there. If you have any questions, please call or text me at 641-919-9009 or email me at Lewis, Lewis, at lewisdenbaum.com. Have a fantastic day.